I think even if rates were to fall reasonably quickly, if we get down into the sort of 3% on the base rate, I still think the mortgage rate's going to be sort of between 3.75 and 4.25 well into next year. And so not a huge improvement. And that's why I think we're going to see a slow and steady kind of recovery in the housing market. We're certainly not going to see house prices take off. But I think what businesses want, estate agents, house builders, lenders, they want to see people actually being able to move and having the confidence to move. And I think some stability in base rates, a little bit of a decline, is going to be enough to keep transaction volumes moving.
Tesco has raised its profits forecast for the year thanks to a jump in sales of fresh food and also premium products. Despite the current squeeze on shoppers' budgets, the UK's biggest supermarket said total sales, excluding fuel, were 4% higher to £31.5 billion. That's for the 6 months to August.
I think what we're seeing at the moment is this £800 gorilla of the grocery market, Tesco. It has by far and away the biggest market share, and it's exuding confidence. It's a bit like having an oil tanker pointing in the right direction and steaming ahead. And what's interesting is Ken Murphy this morning, the chief executive of Tesco, was kind of hinting a very upbeat consumer sentiment, which was a different tone to what his rival Simon Roberts at Sainsbury's had just said a day earlier. And I think the difference is that Sainsbury's has Argos, which sells a lot of toys, general merchandise, discretionary purchases. Tesco has really put its focus on the ultimate bread and butter of food, retail and groceries.
So you could say there's something of a glow of positivity around the economy today with interest rates, Tesco's and the housing market. But will it last? That's the big question, isn't it? At the last reading of consumer confidence, it was actually falling in August. And of course, there's a tough budget coming up later on this month. So let's get the view now from the hospitality and the tourism sector. Today, Butlins has announced a £15 million investment in its Bognor Regis resort, opening a new indoor gaming activity centre. Joining me now, tell us more, is John Hendry Pickup, Chief Executive of Butlins in said new facility. Good to see you on the programme this afternoon. Let's talk about your investment in just a few minutes, because first I'd love to carry on our earlier chat and just get an indication from you about what financial shape Butlins customers are in right now.
I think, like the rest of the UK, what we're seeing is that people are sensitive to price shocks. So everything that's happening around interest rates at the moment is something that they're keenly watching. They've had a number of years where shocks have hit them. So whether that be COVID or whether that be what happened with utilities post then. And so anything that gives them an indication, both negative and positive, has an immediate impact on the decisions that they make. And because we are a business for everybody, we see that keenly on a day-to-day basis.
So we know the cost of living is still a real issue, isn't it, for people in the UK? But if the outlook looks like an economic picture where we have lower inflation and also lower interest rates, what would that mean for you and people coming to spend money at Butlins?
Well, I'm hoping that's good for all of our guests, and it's also good for our team as well, because we try and make sure that we push value for money in what it is that we do. And it means that if they come to us with a higher level of confidence and they're feeling better about spending money, then we've got an opportunity for them to do a whole range of things when they're with us. So we would welcome a bit of that focus. It would be nice for our guests to feel good about spending time and doing things with us when they're on holiday.
Before we get too carried away, we'd love to talk to you about the budget. We think it's going to be a tough one, particularly when it comes to tax rises. What could that do potentially to discretionary spend for staycations?
I think that's already affected us. The government have decided that they were going to tell us quite early that this is going to be really difficult for people. And everybody's been ruminating on that for a couple of months, really. So I think that's already baked into most people's thinking. And we can see that straight away with changes in sentiment. You know, if you look at consumer sentiment over the last couple of weeks, that's dropped significantly from where it was only a couple of months ago. That's been recovering for a couple of years and it's dropped quickly. So I think they've already made the decision from their own household point of view that bad news from the government means something that they ought to take stock of in their own spending, and they've reined in.
And do you think the government have got that strategy right, taking a tack that actually they're kind of talking down the economy? That seems to be unhelpful for business owners like you, or people who are running big businesses like you.
It's difficult to say. I think running the country is a hard place to be. I find it hard enough running a business, so running the whole country is quite tough. I have seen more encouraging signs as the year's gone through that we do have a growth opportunity. And I think navigating that route between talking about what the growth prospects are for the UK, whilst at the same time, obviously taking account of the difficulty that we have with the public purse, I think that there is a route through the two. I don't think we can be entirely gloom and doom. And I suppose that's the purpose of what Andrew Bailey's been talking about today.
Let's talk about your investment now. £15 million. You've really spruced up. We can see behind you what's going on in your site at Bognor Regis. I mean, what kind of boost are you hoping this will give you in terms of looking ahead to the holiday season next year?
Well, we're super excited about this facility, which opens on Monday, actually. So because we're open year round now and we're fully occupied for most of the year, this is something that our guests can experience and enjoy from Monday lunchtime onwards. So this has been part of our strategy over the last 5 years to make sure that we really transform the proposition in Butlins and bring our guests what they really want, which is lots of things to do, lots of activities, very sociable type of events, both day and night. And this really is something that we're very proud of as an investment for Butlins, and something that I'm sure our guests will really enjoy from Monday lunchtime onwards.
You've invested an awful lot. I mean, some of the UK's seafront resorts need a bit more investment, you could say, couldn't you, if I'm being polite? Are you looking for the government to try and match your investment in the rest of Bognor Regis and in other coastal resorts up and down the UK?
We've got a great relationship with the local community here, and we've spent a lot of time today with our opening plans with them. Of course, it would be something that would be welcome if the government continued to support the area. From our point of view, we're trying to do our bit. We're trying to make sure that we invest in the business, and we'll continue to do that over the next 5 years, because as we continue to invest in it, more people come, more people spend money here. It should be good for productivity for the area. It should be good for productivity from our point of view, and hopefully then for the UK as well.
Talking of employers, I mean, you are a big employer. You manage a workforce of about 3,000 strong. So it's a decent-sized workforce. And of course, we have this very much vaunted Bill of Rights going through Parliament next month. It could potentially end zero-hour contracts and give people rights from the day one. I mean, is that helpful for you when you're running your business?
I don't think it really affects us directly. We don't work with 0 hours contracts as it stands at the moment. Our goal is to make sure we recruit people who we then skill up and are able to look after our guests as best as they can. You know, we're open all year round, which is not the same as all holiday resorts in the UK. So we have permanent contracts for our team. And like I said, they're able to work in various different venues across the resort. So if you want to work in bars, or you want to work in entertainment, or you want to work in dealing with grounds work as well, we can do any of those type of things. So from our point of view, I don't think it makes a massive difference to what we do. We'll continue to try to recruit people who fit within our team and fit within our culture and look after our guests.
We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us, and the best of luck. John Hendry Pickup there, the Chief Executive of Butlins. Now, the catering giant Compass Groups is in talks with its investors about increasing its boss's potential pay package by millions of pounds a year. Sky News has learned that the company, which caters for the Wimbledon Tennis Championships, is hoping to raise the annual bonus and long-term share awards it can hand its chief executive, Dominic Blakemore. Mr. Blakemore earns a basic salary of £1.16 million, but was paid nearly £7.5 million last year. The UK's economy grew at a slower pace last month as the rebound from the general election lost some of its momentum. According to the S&P Global's PMI manufacturing survey for September, the private sector expanded at its weakest rate for 3 months. And banks could be given extra time to investigate suspicious payments in an effort to curb fraud. The Treasury has said that proposed new laws would enable banks to pause transactions for up to 72 hours where there are reasonable grounds to suspect that a payment is fraudulent. Currently, banks must either process or refuse a payment by the end of the next business day. Still to come here on Business Live this afternoon, we're going to have a look at how the markets have been faring today. Do stay tuned.
Independent United Kingdom.
These last few years have seen some huge stories. And these stories have been driven by politics, by politicians, the people in power.
You must stay at home.
And it's my job to figure out how these decisions made by politicians impact all of us in our everyday lives.
This is the worst thing I've ever been through in my life.
People turn up here with their child stuff in a black sack and just say, don't want them.
And that is what it is. It's first-class poverty.
Is this an example of the welfare state failing?
We take you to the heart of the stories that shape our world.
These are stories that affect us all. Millions of children are now having to catch up. Some stories have changed all of our lives. Because like the residents, the staff are being infected. Politicians, they make decisions all of the time, and it's our job to hold them to account.
I wonder if you will take this opportunity to apologise to those families.
But in the end, the real power doesn't actually lie with the politicians. The real power lies with the people. I'm Nick Martin. I'm the People and Politics correspondent at Sky News.
It's a clash between barbarism and civilization.
The failures of October the 7th are the failures of Benjamin Netanyahu.
He was in complete shock. Everything he believed about Hamas turned out to be wrong.
They are bent on Israel's destruction.
I think he's the greatest statesman we've had.
He's not a diplomat. He's a populist politician.
This conflict. They keep telling us that they want aid. And this is what's left of it.
Why only in America? People want their country to work.
Just want a job in a normal life.
Why are these homes empty?
I want you to be honest with people.
That has happened within minutes.
Sky News, the full story first. Free wherever you get your news.
I say, bring it on.
With America divided and tensions running high, get ready for an election like no other.
Join our teams as we follow the campaign trail as America decides.
We will win, win, win.
Get closer to the action this US election with full reaction and analysis.
Sky News, the full story first.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
You want to talk business? Meet me in the On-Board Lounge. Fly Emirates. Fly better. Thank you.
Welcome back to Business Live. Now, a disabled single mother has told Sky News how being prosecuted for failing to pay the TV licence fee has left her feeling terrified. She was among 31,000 people prosecuted last year under a fast-track justice system, which critics argue is unnecessary. Our arts and entertainment correspondent Katie Spencer reports.
I still have panic attacks now.
Speaking to us anonymously, this disabled mum of two who we're calling Claire says she never imagined she'd find herself facing criminal prosecution. Her ex-partner had controlled their finances and didn't tell her he wasn't paying their bills. Not long after he was jailed for domestic violence, someone knocked on her door asking why she hadn't bought a TV licence.
A week after, I got a letter saying that I was going to get prosecuted.
She couldn't afford to send off for the paperwork that would prove her domestic situation. And with just 21 days to respond, she felt she had to plead guilty.
It's terrifying because, like, all you think is well, if I don't pay this, are they going to put me in prison? And I've got 2 kids.
Under the Conservative government, various reviews looked into decriminalising non-payment of the TV licence fee and came to nothing. While some newspapers have recently claimed Labour intends to scrap licence fee prosecutions, Sky News understands that's not the case. Officially, all that's being said for now is that ahead of the next charter review, the government isn't ruling out making changes to how non-payment is enforced, but says it'll consult widely before making a decision.
The licence fee has, of course, always been the corporation's bread and butter. But given that 500,000 households cancelled theirs last year, there are some fundamental questions as to the sustainability of the current system. Questions that are making it increasingly hard for the bosses to justify still treating non-payment as a prosecutable offence when there arguably might be better ways to collect their cash without criminalising people like Claire.
TV licence prosecutions are dealt with via a system called the single justice procedure. SJPs are basically a fast-track route through the justice system. Almost 31,000 people were prosecuted for the offence last year, and a disproportionate number of which, just over 73%, were women. The vast majority of cases processed by a single magistrate in private and without a hearing. And because of the way the system is designed, letters from defendants often go unread by prosecutors. Even the Magistrates Association says the system has flaws.
We're not talking here about throwing the whole system out, but the TV Licensing Authority should have to see all pleas and mitigations from defendants before those cases come before magistrates. And that will give the authority the opportunity to decide to withdraw those cases if they believe it isn't in the public interest to pursue them.
The SJP system itself was designed to fix delays, brought in because it's efficient and effective. But fast doesn't always equate to fair when people like Claire feel they have no option but to plead guilty. TV licensing says prosecution is always a last resort and that they've the ability to overturn a conviction and intend to contact Claire to review what happened.
All evidence is evidence, so if this person is vulnerable in any sort of way, they should look into that.
A single mother criminalised and now using her universal credit to pay a fine which she arguably shouldn't have been prosecuted for in the first place. Katie Spencer, Sky News.
Well, since Sky News started investigating this story, the BBC have told us that TV licensing will contact Claire directly to review her prosecution. Let's have a look at how the markets are faring up this afternoon now. The pound has weakened further today following those comments from Andrew Bailey. It's down around 1% now, both against the euro and the dollar. European stock markets are all trading in the red by the barring the Spanish one, the IBEX 35 higher, but just flat really. And the London market, the FTSE 100 has also struggled today as well. Let's check in and see how the London market's faring. Pretty flat, down just 0.1%. There are some winners though, the likes of Rolls-Royce and Tesco having a stronger day. Rolls-Royce up 2.8%, Tesco up 2.5% on the back of those good numbers. And over on Wall Street now, trading well underway. The S&P 500 is slightly down today. One of the biggest gainers is Nvidia, whose CEO said the company is seeing insane demand for its next generation AI chips. Let's also check in with the price of oil. We've been watching this closely because, of course, of Middle East tensions escalating there. And the price of Brent crude, again, trading higher today, climbing another 3.78%, now trading at 76.68. Get analysis for you now. George Lagarias, Chief Economist at Forvis Mazars Group, joins us now. Good to have you on the programme. Let's start by getting your reading on those comments from Andrew Bailey. Everyone's been analysing them all day today. What do you make of them?
Well, for one, I don't think Andrew Bailey is a very lucky guy. By the time he found his dovish streak, because the Bank of England had adopted a more hawkish stance than the rest of the central banks, by the time he found his dovish streak, now oil prices are up nearly 12% above their previous lows. So I hear what Andrew Bailey says, but he knows he was already benefiting from China deflating the world, even as services inflation remains high. And now he has an additional problem, which is high energy prices. So I hear what he's saying, but I know that he's going to have obstacles ahead of him.
The market, though, is pricing in pretty much 100% that we will get an interest rate cut when the MPC, the Monetary Policy Committee, meet in November. And some economists going far as to say that every time they meet until May next year, we will get an interest rate cut here in the UK. What do you think of that?
Look, the UK's growth is very low, and it does make sense for the central bank to lower rates. 5% is too high right now, even where inflation is. Having said that, again, there is a danger here. What if they lower rates aggressively, and for a couple of months, 2 or 3 months, because of what's happening in the world, they see a rebound in inflation, and that could hurt their inflation fighting credentials. So I think the idea is, and if I were in their shoes, I would try to take it easy, one meeting at a time, look at the data, and really decide, given all the geopolitical turbulence, really decide in the last days.
Where do you see inflation going? We've been looking at oil a lot here on Sky News, as you can imagine, because of what's been unfolding in the Middle East. Will that be the main driver of inflation if it starts to tick higher?
No, right now the main driver of inflation is China slowing down precipitously, and that is really driving goods inflation down. Services inflation is coming off, but very slowly and in a volatile manner. So it's China really driving inflation down. Having said that, if tensions in the Middle East persist, then we could see a rebound in inflation, an unexpected one, that could throw a monkey wrench in efforts to lower rates.
OK, so on to the pound now, because we've seen that sterling, the pound, doing well against the dollar. It's rallied over the last couple of weeks, but it's come off a lot today. What is your prognosis or outlook for the pound going forward?
Okay, so versus the dollar has been very weak on especially after the Fed's double cut, and it's been weak throughout most of the year as markets were expecting sharp rate cuts from the Fed, and the pound has been stronger in this particular cross. Now, after Mr. Bailey's comments, obviously a rebound of the dollar and a little bit lower pound is warranted. But again, the Bank of England has shown that it might take a more restrained approach. The Fed has more or less promised more aggressive cuts. So whereas, I do see reason for the pound to weaken a little bit for the next week or two, generally speaking, I don't see it losing its oomph anytime soon.
And George, briefly, if you don't mind, US non-farm payroll data out tomorrow. What are you expecting?
Generally, I do expect a modicum of weakness. That's what the data has been showing us. And I do expect generally growth to be more sluggish going forward. Whether this will...
Okay.
Yeah.
We have to leave it there, George. Keep that thought and come back and tell us what you're going to say in a little while. George Lagarias, Chief Economist of Forvis Mazars Group, thank you very much. That's it from me. Coming up next, we have the News Hour for you. Mark Austin will be live in Beirut, Matt Barbette in London with the very latest on tensions escalating in the Middle East. See you then. Bye for now.
I say, bring it on.
With America divided and tensions running high, get ready for an election like no other.
Join our teams as we follow the campaign trail as America decides.
We will win, win, win. Get closer to the action this US election with full reaction and analysis.
Sky News, the full story first.
Significant day of this conflict. They keep telling us that they want aid. And this is what's left of it.
Tanks, heavy vehicle. Why only in America? People want their country to work.
Just want a job in a normal life.
Why are these homes empty?
I want you to be honest with people.
That has happened within minutes.
Sky News, the full story first. Free wherever you get your news.
5 o'clock, I'm Mark Austin, live in Beirut. This is the News Hour, 60 minutes of news, analysis and interviews. Blasts in Beirut. Israel continues its strikes on Lebanon after 9 people are killed in an attack on an apartment in the city.
In the minds of the people who live here, the war has come to central Beirut. Nowhere in this country is safe anymore.
Israel names 8 soldiers killed in the fighting as Hezbollah says it's detonated a bomb against Israeli forces. And new pictures from Iran, it claims, show the major attack it launched on Israel last Tuesday.
Also this evening, Chagos deal. The UK is to hand over sovereignty of the Paradise Islands with a top-secret military base. Plus, yet another twist in the Labour freebies fiasco as Angela Rayner's trip to an Ibiza club is revealed as a gift.
This is insane. This was a bustling residential area. So many friends who lived here.
Inside a former no-go zone, our Africa correspondent travels to Khartoum to see the devastation and desperation of people living surrounded by gunfire.